Hello and welcome to the next segment of our class. We have left what we've done the first few weeks behind, and now we're going to be discussing non-human primates. So we're going to be starting with Chapter 9 today. So Chapter 9 is discussing biological classification and the order primates. So we need to, in order to discuss their classification, we need to be able to establish evolutionary relationships between animals. How are they related to each other through the evolution of time? If we go back far enough, we can say that we are related to fleas, but that would be 600 million years ago during the early Paleozoic. Since that time, animals have diversified and evolved, and eventually the invertebrates, insects, gave rise to vertebrates, animals with spines. And about 200 million years ago, they gave rise then to mammalia, to mammals. This is a class, and we are going to talk in a little bit later in today's lecture about what a class is. But mammalia arose during the Mesozoic, about 200 million years ago. And there are certain traits that are common to all mammals that help you to identify, if you're looking at an animal, that it is indeed a mammal. And these are things such as live bearing young, and the presence of hair or fur, and a relatively large brain related to body size, teeth that are specialized for different functions. You have to keep in mind some animals do not have differentiated teeth. If you think about snakes or you think about sharks, all their teeth are the same shape. So mammals have teeth that are specialized for different functions, and they can maintain a constant internal body temperature. So we don't have to go lay out on a rock in the morning to warm ourselves up to get going. Our body temperature is constant. So starting 200 million years ago, after mammals evolved, then they began to diversify, eventually giving rise to different taxonomic orders, such as primates and carnivora, which would be, carnivores. So the more distant a shared ancestry is, the fewer shared traits they're going to have. So we have very, very, very few traits in common with fleas, obviously, because our common ancestry with them is so long ago. We have more shared traits with all other mammals because mammals arose more recently. We had a common ancestor more recently. So the more recent the common ancestor is, then the more traits the animals that evolved from that common ancestor are going to have, more shared traits they'll have. So when we look at classification, there is a list on page 241 that shows an example. It is the classification of an orangutan. So the hierarchical classifications are done to help you to understand how animals are related to each other, and they fit into categories, and the top category is the largest. So a kingdom is the largest classification. So we have the kingdom of Animalia. That's all animals. So that's a huge, huge class. It covers everything from primates down to sponges. Very huge class. And then you'll see that it goes from there to a phylum, and the phylum is Chordata. So that means that you have a spinal cord. Not all animals have a spinal cord. Insects don't have a spinal cord. Sponges don't have a spinal cord. So you have the smaller group, the phylum, which only consists of those animals that have a spinal cord. And then we go down to the subphylum of Vertebrata. And that is vertebrata indicates that they have a bony vertebrae, bony spine. And so that group is again even smaller because things like sharks don't have bones. All of their what would appear to be bones are actually made out of cartilage. So they're in a different subphylum than primates are. And then the next smaller one will be Mammalia, because there's Vertebrata includes things such as reptiles and fish. So, but then the smaller group is Mammalia, only includes mammals. And then we have, so that's the class Mammalia, and then below that is the order Primates. And then it keeps going smaller and smaller and smaller until you get to genus and species, which for the orangutan that they're discussing is Pongo pygmaeus. It's just, that's the genus and species for the orang. So when we are looking at how the animals get placed in these different categories, again, it's going to be based on similar characteristics among the species are used to classify them. And it's important when we're trying to use these different species to figure out, are these characteristics from a common ancestor, or are they characteristics that arose independently because the animals evolved in a similar location, a similar environment? So those traits that we can say arose from a common ancestor are called homologies. Remember, homo means same. So these are traits that are the same as you found in a common ancestor. That's what homologies are. And on figure 9.1 on page 240, it shows drawings of a variety of different animals. And those that have a humerus, the animals in the picture that have a humerus, the humerus in that picture is the homologous feature. That all the animals that are shown in that picture that have a humerus got that humerus from a common ancestor. Then you have features that are not from a common ancestor. And those would be things such as fish and dolphins have basically the same streamlined shape. Birds and bats both have wings. All right. Fish and dolphins did not get their shape from a common ancestor. The ancestor of the dolphin, when you go back far enough, was a land mammal with 4 legs. So their ancestor was not shaped anything like a fish. Moving into a marine environment and living in the marine environment caused them to evolve that shape. Hold on a moment.